Good morning and welcome to another video. So as you know, if you follow my channel, I do struggle with some legroom in my end seat. Now I combated this by installing the Jass Performance seat lowering brackets, the 1-inch ones, and they've done a really good job actually. They've lowered my seat, they've moved it back a bit, and I also removed the dead stop next to the clutch pedal. Vlad from Jass Performance actually watched that video and said he was really intrigued with it and said that he might have another product that could help me out. So Jass Performance have sent me a handbrake sleeve, which I'm pretty confident is shorter and a more rounded design, as well as being like really nice high quality machined aluminium. Ooh. Now I am disclosing now that I have not paid for this part, I have been gifted it, but I will give my honest review, so let's get on with opening it. Ooh, let's have a cup of tea. Ooh. Jass Performance handbrake handle. And then there's the button. It's a very nice finish on that. Very nice. You can see where it's been machined. It feels really nice. You can actually hear it when you rub it. And then there's a little grub screw just there. And the button that sits on top. It's nice and cold as well because it's, yeah, real aluminium. Lovely that is. So the stock one is 107.7 millimeters. That's without the button. And then the Jass Performance one, again without the button, 100.01. And then width of the stock one is 29.6. And then the Jass one tapers, but Jass width at the widest point 34.7, and then at the thinnest point 28.15. So as you can see, it is shorter. Has more of a bulge in the middle, but definitely shorter, so I'm hoping that will help. Okay, so first things first is I tried to remove the handbrake button, which looks like it's metal, but it's not. It's plastic, and it's very shiny and very slippy, so in order to get a good grip on it, I put some tape around it, and obviously the tape had to be red because of the car. The idea being that because it's held on by a thread, I'm going to get some pliers around it and unscrew it. Also, to give me some more purchase, I wrapped an elastic band around the button to try and give the pliers something to grip onto. And at this point, always remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. And after my first turn, the elastic band pretty much popped straight off, and the tape was actually sliding on the surface of the button. Didn't really work that first attempt, just sort of bit into it. And my elastic band just snapped. And as you can see, it really didn't work because my pliers actually pretty much bit into the button and marked it up quite badly. So that was that theory out the window, and at this point I know that button's pretty much toast if I wanted to use it again, because that plastic is really soft. So at this point I decided to change my method, and instead of applying tape to the part that I was removing, I started applying tape to the tool that I was using. So I absolutely caked the pliers in the soft electrical tape and tried again. And this method proved to be a lot more effective. What I ended up doing was sort of like pushing the pliers on at the tip and then squeezing and releasing each quarter turn that I was doing with the pliers. And with some weird noises, eventually it broke free. It sort of came loose, which was exactly what I wanted, and then finished it off just with my hand. And I knew there was a spring there, but I wasn't sure if that spring was going to shoot out or whether it was just going to sit in there. There we go. And there we have it, the button and the spring out, and you can see the button is pretty chewed up from that first attempt with the pliers. And that's how the spring fits into the button. And that spring is basically so that when you click the button to release the handbrake, it just bounces back to its normal position. Next up, I wanted to remove the leather gaiter to see if there's anything else holding the handbrake sleeve on. And that's just held on with some plastic clips, so if you give that a pull upwards, it'll just pop straight out. And all I did then was to just slide it straight over the handbrake sleeve, and it comes clean off, along with a lot of dirt that was accumulated under there, so apologies for that. And if your car's the same sort of age as mine, you know that in the heat the leather sort of goes a bit hard, brittle, and starts cracking, and that leads to holes in this. Doesn't really bother me too much because I can't see it whilst I'm driving, but I could look at replacing this part in the future because it has got a few holes in it. Now, I really got stuck at this point trying to remove that handbrake sleeve. There's nothing online, I couldn't find anything showing you how to remove it. It just says remove, but when I was pulling on this, it would not come off. It is held on very solidly, and there was absolutely no movement in it when I was twisting it with my hands. I thought it might be a grub screw like the Jass one, and it could have been slotted on just with a really nice interference fit, but nothing was working. So I basically assumed that it was held on with glue, and that glue had been holding it on for a long time, probably 13 years, so I tried to jiggle it and sort of shock the glue into releasing. So with two hands I began twisting it left and right. I then tried to see if the rubber was held on separately to the leather or anything, but it actually looks like it's almost one piece, or at least a two-part injection molded piece, and then the leather is wrapped around that plastic. And what I found actually released it in the end was sort of twisting, pulling forwards and jiggling at the same time quite quickly. And although I missed it on the camera, there was just a loud snap when it eventually gave way. But I will warn you in advance, it does require quite a lot of force to get this off. Yeah, that was definitely glued on. And if you're like me, you're always curious with how much stuff weighs on the MX-5. The leather gaiter and plastic insert was 90 grams. The stock handbrake sleeve was 65 grams. I also noticed at this point it has a little Mazda logo included in the ejection mould, which I thought was quite nice. And the Jass handbrake sleeve is 129 grams. Obviously it's going to be heavier because it's made out of aluminium, including the handbrake button, 141 grams. Stock weight including the spring and the button, 74 grams. And weight of the replacement parts with the spring and the button is 145 grams. The Jass system is much simpler and easier to understand. It is just held on with one grub screw in the bottom. First thing I did on the install was to replace the leather handbrake gaiter until I realised that it was still a bit dirty, so I gave that a quick clean off. It is easy to know which way around this goes because the part is asymmetric at the bottom. It has a curve on the gear stick side. And I really wanted to get that grub screw pointing downwards so that you couldn't see it whilst you were in the car. And I must say the fit was really good with the Jass product. It slid straight on, and there was a stop at the end physically stopping it from only going so far. So it's a nice and easy install really. And then you need a 2.5mm Allen key to tighten up the grub screw. And then I reinstalled the spring and the Jass Performance button, and I really wanted to make sure that the spring wasn't caught on the button, so I just pushed it in with my finger. And then all I did to engage the thread was to push down a little bit on the button and then twist it clockwise to tighten. And this button is a lot more robust than the stock button, obviously, because it's made of metal and not plastic. But because the tolerances are really tight on these and it's very nicely finished, it does hurt your hand a little bit when you tighten it up. And there we have it. I think it almost looks OEM, and the one thing you can't see over the video is the feel of it. Because it's aluminium, it feels cold when you touch it. I think it fits really well with the silver accents on the steering wheel and around the gear knob, as well as on the top of the gear knob. But overall I'm really pleased with the install. Nice and easy process to do, not too much of an expensive part. Pretty sure that anyone could do this if you have an Allen key. And the reflection off the metal and the finish on it is just absolutely perfect. The only thing that I have noticed with the design is the gaiter. I think I stretched my gaiter when I pulled it over the stock lever. And because I've stretched it a little bit, there's this little piece of excess leather around the base of the new handbrake where you can see through to the actual handbrake underneath. But I'm sure this could be fixed if you bought a new gaiter, because that would have a much tighter tolerance, or if you didn't stretch it like I did around the base of the lever. So that's it, all installed, ready to go, and I must say I am actually really happy with it. Quality is actually amazing, it's better than OEM. So what I'll do is I'll leave a link in the description box below so you can check out this product. They also do like shifter extensions in all different colours, as well as NA and NB MX-5 products. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you really enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel because there's a lot more coming soon.